Good morning, everybody. This is Jeremy of Double J Farms Homestead. I come out here on the porch and thought I'd talk a little bit. And it's not as cool as it has been. And I'm thankful for that. This cold weather is rough on me. But I came out here because the light's so much better. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about Thanksgiving and counting our blessings. And I wanted to share a little bit more of my story. These videos usually are not very popular, and that's okay. But I hope and pray that they'll encourage somebody, because that's what we're trying to do. But I just wanted to kind of tell you part of my story. I've shared a lot about my health and the struggles I have, and you've known that. But I want to share another little part with you and tie it all in. And you'll probably say when I get done, you'll probably say, Jeremy, how in the world can you be thankful and counting your blessings? I just am. See, in 2015, my marriage ended, and had 2 little boys, and I was disabled. And I'll be honest with you, the first thought I had was, how in the world am I going to make it? I knew God would provide, but I'm not going to lie, I'm human, I was scared. And you know, as you can tell in the videos, they're shared custody, which is, I think, the way it should be. They need their mother as much as they need me. And that's been hard, just because of it's lonesome in this old big house when they ain't here. But when it first happened, I struggled. I struggled and struggled and struggled. I couldn't eat and I couldn't sleep, couldn't drink, and to the point where I got so dehydrated, had to go in and they ran fluids one day all day long because I was just that distraught. I was angry, I was heartbroken, blaming myself for everything, and didn't know what I was going to do. Many times, and I still do this, but especially when it first happened. Like I say, I couldn't sleep. I'd get up in the middle of the night and I would go to the boys' bedrooms and I'd kneel down by their beds and I'd lay my hands all over their beds and beg God to bring them home safe. I knew they were safe with their mother, but it was just different for me. I'd never been in that place. When they'd come home, I'd feel a peace. Then when they'd have to leave again, it'd start all over. And I never will forget one morning about 3 o'clock, I was praying over their beds. It was dark in the house, and I went into the front room to the piano, and I sat down in the dark, didn't even turn on the light, and I looked up towards the ceiling and I said, Lord, I need something. I need some peace, I need some comfort, I need you. You see what I'm going through. Lord, I need you. And immediately the old hymn came to me. 'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus. And I sat there in the dark and began to play that old hymn. And by the time I got through about the 2nd or 3rd verse, I had a peace like you wouldn't believe. And I'll be honest with you, I just got plumb happy just sitting right here in the front room, just me and the Lord in the dark, playing that old hymn, crying and shouting and having a time in there. And but you know, it still didn't change fact the reality was my boys still wasn't here. I was still alone, but I had God. And it took me months to realize that that's all I needed. And I knew that. But you know, I'm human. And God became so real during those months. I remember many nights, and my boys don't know this, of course they'll see it now, but they're old enough now where it wouldn't worry them and things are different now. But there was many nights I would fix supper for the boys. And they would ask me, Daddy, why aren't you eating? And I would always just answer, I'd say, well, I will. But there was many, many nights that I would fix them something to eat. And I would wait until they got done and I made sure they were full before I ate, if there was anything left. There were some nights that all I had was what they had left on their plates. I would take their plates to the kitchen and I would eat in the kitchen what was left on their plates, and that's what I had. But God still provided. My main concern was that my children had food. That's still my concern. But things are better. And but many, many nights I would wait until they got full. And if there was anything left, that's what I had. I would do the same thing at breakfast and at lunch. And God laid it on my heart that I needed to fast a meal a day. And I thought, well, maybe that's just my conscience thinking, well, that would save that much food. But it became so heavy that I knew I had to do it. So for several years, over one concern, that I would fast a meal a day. I would not eat breakfast. And I've got to the point now where I did it so long, I still do it. And I've been continuing to fast a meal a day, that breakfast meal, over some dear people in my life that I feel that God would have me do it. And God's honored it. He's honored that faithfulness. But, you know, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, they kindly did. I'd finally figured out how to make things stretch. And I'd got some things paid off, so I had more grocery money. But just like now, I heat with propane. And there was one winter, and this was hard. There was one winter, I lived the whole winter with no heat. And I would have the boys stay with my parents because they had a wood heater. I would get up in the morning and I would go up to my parents and I would get the boys ready for school. I would take them to school, and they stayed that winter up at my parents'. I would cook in the evening and I would just cook at Mother and Daddy's. And I would go up and stay till bedtime. Then I would come home. And you say, well, why in the world didn't you stay at your parents'? Well, as a grown man, and I'm not gonna lie, I was proud. My main concern was that my boys were not cold. And I would come home at night when it was bedtime, and I would, I think I had 4 quilts on my bed. And I'd sleep fully dressed with a coat on, and I would sleep in my bed until the next morning, and I'd get up and go back to Mother and Daddy's to make sure them boys, I'd wake them up, and just like if they were at home, but it was just up there. But they were warm, and that was my main concern. And I lived that whole winter with no heat. And I'd already been through the thing with very little food, and I thought, Lord, where are you? I need you. And he was there. He really was. But I learned a lot through those times. I learned to depend on him. I learned to lean on him and learn just how he was my provider. Besides my Savior. I knew that. But I thought, Lord, where are you? I see people out here living just like the devil, and they've got everything in the world they want. And I'll be honest, I got bitter. And I thought, Lord, it ain't right. I serve you. I live for you. And here I am, can't even buy heat so that my boys can be at home and that I can be warm. And I continued to serve. And I kept trusting and just depending on God to make the difference. I remember one morning getting up and thinking how cold it was in the house. There's a little thermometer in Carson's room, and I went in there and looked at that thermometer, and it was 28 degrees in the house. And I thought, this is awful. Lord, bring springtime. I need some warm weather. And you may say, well, 28 degrees in a house? Yeah, because it was like close to zero outside. And there hadn't been any heat in the house for months. But just like God provided that food, I want to tell you something how he provided through that time. Through that whole time, with no heat, I never had a busted pipe the first time. I never had any trouble, plumbing-wise, even as cold as it was in the house. God was looking after me. And, by that point, I was distraught, I'll be honest with you. But I kept on serving him. And I began to pray. I said, Lord, I'm lonesome. And I began to pray for God to send me somebody. And that year, things began to get a little better. And I began to get a little more on my feet because I'd continued to pay some things off and where I had a little money. And the boys were getting older and things. And I never will forget it. I had heard of a new gas company, and so I reached out to them and I told the owner my situation, and I just said, this is just how it is. I don't know if you can help me or not, but I'll pay you. It may take me a little while sometimes, but I'll pay you. And I said, I've been saving. I got some money up front, and so he brought me some gas. And brought me a tank and that kind of thing. And that was it hadn't got cold yet. And I'd been praying for God to send me somebody. And I don't know, sometime that year I had got a friend request from a Lynn Hartley. And I thought, who in the world is that? On Facebook. And I didn't accept it because I didn't know who she was. And That was back in, it was in the summertime. And that fall, I began to I got another request from this Lynn Hartley, so I went to her page and still did not register with me who she was. So I accepted it. Well, it was pretty quick. She sent me a message in like private messenger, and she thanked me for accepting the request and that kind of thing. And I guess she knew by my Facebook page that gospel music was my life, you know. So she began to send music videos to try to encourage me. And I finally figured out who she was. And I thought, well, I know that girl. And she began to send videos and to, you know, try to encourage me. And I believe she was wanting to court then. But old Jeremiah was a little slow and very guarded, very, very, very guarded. And so I began to correspond with her through Messenger, and we did that for about probably 4 or 5 months. And I never went to see her or anything. And she had asked me about, we had kind of talked about our history. And I had told her kind of what I'd been through, part of it, and she told me what she'd been through. And we just began to talk. And you know, God's got a way of working things out. When we can't see it, He's got a big plan. And the kind of neat thing about our story is this. Years and years and years ago, before I got so sick, I helped a funeral home and was there many years. But this was a long, long time ago. And her grandfather had passed away. And I remember the day he died. And I went and helped get him, and went and helped took the home equipment back. And I remember seeing her there. And I remember the day of the funeral, they had requested that we bring her grandpa back to the farm one more time and ride him through the farm in the hearse. Now, they knew he wasn't there, but they just wanted to do it. So on my way to the church that day, I had him in the back of that big Cadillac, and I took him by the chicken houses and took him around a circle one more time before we went on to the church. And I remember meeting her and her husband that day and talking to him that day. And but I'd forgot about her. So fast forward many, many, many years, because she was just a young kid, really. Of course, I'm older than her, and but here we were in the same situation. We had kind of been done the same way and that kind of thing, and here we are beginning to talk. And she had asked me about parching peanuts. Her grandmother had passed, and of course I was not at the funeral home then. And but she had asked me about parching peanuts, and I told her how I did it. And this is all still through Messenger. I still hadn't laid eyes on her. And she offered to bring me and the boys some parched peanuts, and I wouldn't let her. I thanked her. I was very gracious. But I thought, no, I ain't gonna do it. We continued to begin to talk, and it was in January of the next year, and the boys were wanting to grind some feed for their animals. Well, their family, Lynn and her parents and all of them, they've sold corn for years. And so I asked her one day, I said, I really need some corn. And I said, if they've got any, I'd like to come get some to have to grind for feed. She said, oh, we got plenty. Now, mind you now, she had been, she kind of initiated all this, so I thought, well, I'm going to just ask her, can I come see her? So I texted her, and I said, hey, I said, I was just wondering something. I said, would it be all right if I come see you? Now, you all keep in mind now, she's the one started this. She's the one started talking to me, so I texted her, and I thought, well, she'll be ready. So I texted her, and I said, can I come by and see you? And her reply was, well, maybe for a little bit. And I thought, now ain't that something? She's the one pursued me, and here I am trying to go see her, and after I'd turned down peanuts and everything else, and she said, maybe a little bit. And I thought, ain't that just like a woman? So I went. Got over there, and she come out on the porch, and I didn't recognize the house anymore because she had remodeled it completely. And I went and stayed with her that night about an hour. And a couple days later, I told her, I said, I really need to come get some corn. So I went over there, and we joked about it there for a long time. Said she was my grain dealer. And so we began to talk. And that was the first time was January the 19th. Well, actually, the first day I went to see her was the 17th. And the 19th was my mother's birthday. And I had cooked for my mother. And on the 19th that night, the boys wanted to spend the night with Mom and Daddy. And so I left, and I took her a piece of Mama's birthday cake I'd made. And from there, the talking increased, and the visits increased, and that kind of thing. And we hit it off. That will be 2 years this coming January. You said, Jeremy, been hard on you. You've been through a lot. I don't see how you can be thankful, but I am. God's provision, His protection, even in some mighty dark days, it was there. But I stayed faithful. God started to begin to turn things around. He brought Lynn into my life and the boys' lives, and we all love her to death. You say, well, you went hungry, you were cold, you were lonely. Yeah, that's all true. But God. I continued to trust Him, even when it was hard. I continued to live for Him, even when it was hard. And you know, I had friends, still got them, that were very dear to me during those times. They'd allow me to come over and stay so I wouldn't have to sit in the cold house, or I could just come home and go to bed. I appreciate them. And you know, a lot of people never knew what I was going through because I was too proud to tell them. But when I think about Thanksgiving and even the hard times, I can't help but think how good God was through it all. Me and Gavin, we play a song called I Am Blessed. And I treasure that song and the words in it. And I may share it on my community page. You can go over there and check it out, me and Gavin playing it. But when I think about Thanksgiving, I can't help but count my blessings. Even in those hard times, even in those lean times, God was there. I said all that to say this. You may be going through some of those same struggles. If you're a Christian, whatever you do, keep trusting. Keep living for Him. If you're not, I ask you to seek Him out. Find Him. Because He'll help you. So when I think about Thanksgiving and I think about counting my blessings, I thank Him for those hard times. I even thank Him for the pain that I've been through. Because I believe with all my heart, through those times, God has used me to encourage somebody. And I've learned to thank Him for everything, the good and the bad, because it's all for my good. Learned a lot. I've grown a lot. And I've been blessed a lot. So if you're having a hard time right now, stay strong. Stay in God's Word. Stay faithful. But most of all, you can keep trusting. And count your blessings through every bit of it. I promise you it's worth it. You thank Him in the good times and the bad. You know, a lot of the times we may be, as they say, on the mountaintop. When you're on the mountaintop, you know that valley's coming. But when you're in that valley, you know there's another mountain coming. That's life. But count your blessings through all of it. I promise you it's worth it. So, excuse me. Stay true and keep counting them blessings. Because when you start counting the blessings and start naming them one by one, as the old hymn says, it won't be long. You'll forget about some of those hard times. You'll forget about those struggles. You'll forget about, you get to thanking God for how good He is, and you get a different perspective. And I pray you can do that. That's what I'm doing today, is just reflecting on how good God's been to me and continues to be. And I will say this, since I started this channel to help my sons and their channel, The Moores Outdoors. And that was all I did it for, was to help them. And so many new subscribers have came along, and we appreciate that so much. If you hadn't subscribed to my son's channel, I would ask you to do that too, because that's what I want to do, is help them. But since I've started this channel trying to encourage somebody, I have been attacked from every direction. And there's been some days, I'll be honest with you, I thought, I'm quitting. This is too much. And God keeps giving me something to say. He keeps giving me a word that I believe is for some of y'all, as well as it is for me. So I do pray this will be an encouragement to you. And this Thanksgiving, if you got more than your share, share it with somebody. They may not have anything. If you don't have anything, and I've been there, still stay true, because God will bless at the most unexpected times. When those times were so hard and I didn't tell anybody what was going on, You wouldn't believe the times that I would go to my back door or my front door, and there'd be a box of groceries sitting there that I had no idea where they came from. And I couldn't do anything but cry over God's goodness. And folks, it's still that way. So I pray that you all have a good Thanksgiving. And we'll try to be back between now and then. But when you think about Thanksgiving, count your blessings. Even when you think you don't have, when you do, just begin to think. Begin to thank God for them. And name them one by one. And it'll change your outlook. It'll change your perspective. And God will be honored. And that's the main thing, folks. So I hope this will encourage somebody. A little bit more of my story. Maybe it was very personal. And I've never shared it. Most people have no idea. But that's okay too. But I felt like at this time of the year I need to share it with somebody. So stay encouraged, friend. God is real. He's an ever-present help in the time of need. Don't forget that. Just keep living for Him and counting them blessings. And it'll change you. But not only during this time of the year, but all year, you just keep loving on folks. Keep serving folks. Keep bragging on Jesus. And I promise you, you will get the blessing. I pray that every one of you have a good Thanksgiving. Even if it may be different this year. I pray it's good. And pray God's blessings on you. Thank you so much for your support. If you haven't subscribed, I ask you to do that. Hit that little old notification bell. Leave us a comment. We love, love, love hearing from you. I'll be honest with you, excuse me. It's been so wonderful to hear from people all over the world. I've heard from people in Germany and Ireland and different places, and that has excited me. So I pray that this will be a blessing to whoever watches it. Like I say, these videos here are not popular. They have the least likes of anything, the least views of anything. But if just one person watches, it'll be worth it. So happy Thanksgiving, y'all. We love you. We appreciate you. Ask you to keep watching, and we'll see you again.